Hello and welcome to this week's Women's Football Chat. My name is Chris Gadsby. I'm here every Thursday at 6 p.m, bringing you the very latest from the third and fourth tiers of women's football here in England. That's the FA Women's National League, and my word, have we got a lot to talk about this week. Plenty of results. We've got a cup final coming up. We've had our first relegation. In the first half, put the Lightning 2-0 up at the break. Forest do pull it back though. Ariana Daniels 3 minutes into the second half, and then Laura Jane O'Neill with 6 minutes to go made it 2-2 to Forest. So they get a point from that. The league is still in their hands, but that was a disappointing result for the Reds. Black Country Derby, Wolves winning by 3-1 at the Hawthorns away at West Brom here. Beth Roberts in the 17th minute, Destiny Toussignon in the 39th and the 44th minute with Wolves' goals. Maria Timms with the goals for West Bromwich Albion. So Wolves win by 3-1 to keep that pressure on. And then we move through to the 3 games that took place at the weekend. Burnley 4, Derby County 1. This one was one we were looking at and was potentially one that Burnley may slip up on with Derby being in fourth. No such luck for Wolves and for Forest. 2-0 up inside the first 7 minutes were Burnley. Elizabeth Hamer in the 3rd, Laura Elford in the 7th. Leah Jade Embley then in the 20th minute. 3-0 up before the midway point in the first half. Game fully in control. Derby got one back. Rebecca McGrover in the 69th minute made it 3-1. But Millie Grace Ravening 4 minutes from time. 4-1 to Burnley. And Boldmere St Michael's an away win against Huddersfield Town. Now, Boldmere took the lead in the first minute in this one. Jade Formerston with the goal. Serena Fletcher equalising for Huddersfield just 10 minutes later. So 1-1 after 11 minutes. That's how it was into half-time. But then just before the hour mark, Leonie Joyce put Boldmere in front, and they held on to that to give them a valuable 3 points in their fight against relegation, which we'll look at in a few moments. And finally, Stoke City 1, Fylde 2. Stoke taking the lead in this one and carrying it through to half-time. Noala Miskiel in the 35th minute putting them in front. But Alexandra Taylor just after the hour mark and Amy Hughes with 19 minutes to go gave Fylde the 2-1 victory. What that means for the table, Forest are still top, but they are now just a point clear of Burnley in second, and Burnley have a game in hand. Now, Forest have that better goal difference. The reason I say it's still in Forest's hand is because Forest have got to play Burnley between now and the end of the season. So if Forest were to win that game, of course, it then goes to a 4-point gap. Burnley's 1 game in hand there. It gets nullified if Forest are able to beat Burnley at home in a few weeks' time. Wolves still 3rd, Derby still 4th, Brighouse still 5th, Stoke still 6th, Huddersfield still 7th. The only movement, Fylde going up a couple of places to 8th now. West Bromwich Albion, Liverpool Feds, they dropped to 9th and 10th. Boldmere St Michael's still in the relegation zone. But with that 3 points that they got over Huddersfield at the weekend, they're now just 2 points away from safety. Yes, they have played more games than anybody else, but it's much more manageable now for Boldmere. It was a 5-point gap, it's now a 2-point gap. So Boldmere giving themselves a bit of a fighting chance. Loughborough Lightning got that point against Forest. They are 12 points away from safety. They have 5 games to go. So they need to pretty much win every single game because that goal difference acts as another point. They cannot afford to lose between now and the end of the season. Let's have a look at some of these run-ins in the Northern Premier Division then. And my camera is going off for this bit because otherwise you're going to miss a vast majority of the information. So this is the run-in at the bottom of the Northern Premier Division, given the teams that are currently fighting out for that second relegation spot. Although, of course, it's mathematically possible, I've had already, in my mind when making this screen, relegated Loughborough Lightning. So, let's have a look at some of these. So, this weekend, West Bromwich Albion take on Loughborough. Liverpool Feds take on Huddersfield. Boldmere St Michael's, they have 4 games to play, but their game against Wolves that was scheduled for the 23rd of April has now moved. Reason for that is because Wolves' County Cup game against West Brom was called off for a waterlogged pitch. That then moves to this weekend, which means Wolves against Burnley moves to the 23rd, and Wolves against Boldmere will move to a midweek somewhere that has not yet been decided while I'm recording this. So that's why Boldmere have only got 3 on their chart there on the right hand side. So that's the situation there. So as you can see, West Bromwich Albion and FAWNL have got far more games to go. West Bromwich Albion and Feds. Feds have got 2 games in hand over Boldmere. West Bromwich Albion have got 3. Now the reason that I say, Loughborough, they've got 5 games to play. You can see that they have to play West Brom, they have to play Feds, and they have to play Boldmere. So they are playing the teams around them. But you have a look at this and you wonder who's got that kind of good running that they need. And West Bromwich Albion, I think, have the game advantage here because, yes, they've got Forest, Burnley, Derby, Brighouse. They've got that game against Loughborough as well, though. Stoke are kind of mid-table, nothing to go for. FAWNL are just trying to pull themselves away from that relegation discussion. Look at Feds. They've got Huddersfield, who, of course, Boldmere just beat. FAWNL as well, so we're teaming and around there. The Lightning. Then they've got Wolves, Boldmere. That's going to be a huge game. Liverpool Feds against Boldmere St Michael's. Then they finish off with Burnley. So you look at where a Liverpool Feds going to get those points. They've got to face Burnley. They've got to face Wolves, who are still in a title battle. So Liverpool Feds, you feel, need to get their points relatively early because their final 3 games, they've only got Boldmere in that. Where you think realistically they're probably going to pick up some points. Boldmere St Michael's, they've got that Wolves game which isn't on the screens I've discussed. Their final 3 games, though, apart from that, is the Lightning, who are in 12th, Feds, who are in 10th, and FAWNL, who are currently in 8th. They are all winnable games for Boldmere. So they will have confidence, having gone and beaten Huddersfield and put themselves much more firmly in the conversation now. They only need a win and they're getting themselves out of the relegation zone. So that's going to be very interesting at the bottom of the Northern Premier Division. At the top, it's just as interesting as well. So again, Wolves have this game against Boldmere to fit in somewhere. But Forest, Derby this weekend, then Burnley. Then they've got West Brom in midweek after that was moved. A week off, then Brighouse. Then they've got that cup final. That's what is the extra game that Forest have got to play there. And Stoke on the final day. Burnley, Forest also have Stoke, but Burnley have got Wolves. So Burnley, the title contender, or one of these 3 title contenders, have got to play the other 2. And Forest and Wolves have only got to face Burnley. So it is in Burnley's hands as well. Wolves require results to kind of go their way. Burnley, it's in their hands if they win all their games. Forest, it's in their hands if they win all their games. But Wolves require results to go their way, so it's slightly advantage Forest and Burnley. It does all come down to that game on April the 2nd, because that is the key one as to whether Forest can pull away from Burnley or whether Burnley will overtake him. You can see there as well on that screen that because Forest are the only ones playing this weekend, they face Derby. If they slip up there, then that really is a dampener on their championship and title hopes. If they can beat Derby, they go 4 points clear. Yes, they've got 2 games in hand, but it just puts a bit more pressure on Burnley, because if Forest go 4 clear, then beat Burnley, they're 7 clear. Yes, Burnley will still have 2 in hand, but it's psychologically that will have a big impact, I think, on Burnley. So it is very much, I think, these next couple of weeks before that West Brom midweek game for Forest is very, very important for them. Wolves, as I said, their difficult games now come further towards the end of the season. Derby at home, Burnley away, Brighouse away. We know what form Brighouse have been on in 2023. It's going to make it far more interesting. So keep an eye on the Northern Premier Division, because a lot could happen in that. Right, let's go through to the Southern Premier Division then and the Southern Premier results. So we're going to start with the game that was last Thursday. Bridgewater 3, Cheltenham Town 3. Ellie Sara in the 6th and the 15th minute. Bethany Everson in the 23rd minute. It was 3 goals in the first 23 minutes for Bridgewater. good in itself, but Cheltenham 3 goals in the first half an hour. Billy Haynes in the 5th, Holly Finch in the 12th, and Laura Holden in the 29th. So at the half-hour mark in this game, it was 3-3 between these two sides, and that is ending up how it finished. Kelsey Fallon was sent off with 8 minutes to go. Then on Saturday, Cheltenham lost by 1-0 against London Bees. This one was on a Saturday because it was at Cheltenham Town. Kayleigh Potter, 90+2, the only goal in that one. London Bees taking the 3 points. Then we move into the weekend. Ipswich Town with a 4-1 victory over Crawley. Freya Godfrey, Anna Gray, Bonnie Elizabeth Horwood and Eloise King with the goals for Ipswich. And goal for Crawley is a penalty for Latita Nichols, is their one and only goal in that game. The big game between Watford and Oxford was unfortunately postponed, so they're going to have to fit that in midweek somewhere now. And then Gillingham 2, Plymouth Argyle 0, a brace for Georgia Griffin there in the Southern Premier Division for Gillingham. So with that, the table looks like this. Ipswich have gone to the top. They're 2 points clear of Oxford, but they now have 2 games in hand. Portsmouth, Watford, Billericay Town stay 3rd, 4th and 5th. Gillingham are up a place over Milton Keynes Dons. Cheltenham stay where they are in 8th. London Bees up to 9th. Plymouth Argyle drop down to 10th. 1 point ahead of Bridgewater United in the relegation zone. Crawley Wasps now, they are 8 points away from safety. They only have 9 to play for. So a similar situation there where you look at Crawley Wasps and you think they've got Oxford and Portsmouth in their final 3 games as well. Very unlikely. I think they're going to win all 3 of those games and survive on the final day of the season. Let's have a look at the Southern Premier Division run-ins, starting at the bottom again. So similar to the North, I've taken out Crawley because 3 games to go and they need 8 points out of those 3, so they need to win all 3 games. So with London Bees, they've got 4 games to go. They're now off until April the 9th. They're 3 points ahead of that relegation line, which is currently held by Bridgewater. They've got Gillingham, Watford, and then 2 against Bridgewater to finish the season. Plymouth have Oxford, Watford, MK Dons, Billericay, and then MK Dons again. So Plymouth, you feel, again, Oxford, Watford, Billericay, difficult games for them. It's those 2 against MK Dons where I think Plymouth are really going to have to try and target getting some wins, getting some results. Bridgewater, MK Dons in 7th, Watford in 4th, 2 against London. It feels as though those back-to-back games between London Bees and Bridgewater United will determine who gets relegated out of the Southern Premier Division. That being said, Plymouth have got the current 2nd team away, the current 4th team at home, and the current 5th team away, and then 2 against MK Dons in 7th. So Plymouth don't have a very easy run-in. London Bees and Bridgewater, you would think if they go in the current situation where they're 3 points behind, they're going to need to win both of the games, or at least one of the games against London Bees, because their goal difference is to their advantage at the moment. But I do feel it's going to come down to those final 2 games between London and Bridgewater. Very exciting there in the Southern Premier Division, particularly because those 2 sides play each other back to back. I haven't yet done a graphic for the top of the Southern Premier Division, because there are still 4 teams in it. I was going to do it this week after this Oxford-Watford game when we saw if it closed up massively or if Watford were kind of falling a bit adrift now with 7 points to catch with 5 games to go, but then it got postponed and I can only fit 3 teams on the graphic, and it just seems too unfair to leave Watford out of the discussion at the moment, particularly if they win that game in hand over Oxford. They've got 2 in hand over Ipswich. If they were to win both of those, that's a level with Ipswich, who are currently top. It's all very kind of tight at the top of the Southern Premier Division table. So we'll move on to Division 1 North. Just the 2 results to talk about in this one. Leeds United, as they try and somehow finish their season with many midweek games. Leeds United 3, Bradford City 2. Goals in this one coming to Jessica Razoo in the 62nd and the 65th minute quick-fire brace, because Amy Woodruff, who had come off the substitutes bench in the 54th minute, then scored in the 59th minute. So 3 goals in the space of 6 minutes for Leeds. Bradford, Ariana Parnham and Charlotte Stewart with their goals, but Bradford fall to another defeat. And Newcastle, again, keeping that pressure on with Durham. Rachel Lee in the 2nd minute, Katie Barker in the 46th, Casey Elson in the 56th, and Georgia Gibson in the 66th. With the goals for Newcastle to give them a 4-0 victory. What that means for the table is they close the gap to Durham to just 1 point, and they have a game in hand. Not really much in the way of movement in Division 1 North, just Leeds United getting themselves up to 5th, with Hull City dropping down to 6th. Now, Leeds have still got 8 games to fit in to the final 6 weeks of the season. Now, Leeds, instead, they have 4 games in hand over Durham. That would take them up to 37. So they're far too far adrift to go into a title race decision, conversation rather. But if they win their 2 games in hand they've currently got over Barnsley, that puts them on 31. They would be in 4th, just 2 points behind Barnsley, with plenty of games still to go. So don't be surprised if you see Leeds climb up maybe another place into 4th, because they've got 4 games in hand over Stockport, maybe up into 3rd if they manage to get results to go their way over Barnsley. So very much still Leeds being the movers here, because if you look towards the bottom of the table, 4 games to go for most, 5 for Bradford. Merseyrail then need 8 points from their last 4 games to have any chance of survival. That comes against Bradford, as we've discussed before, Norton, Stockton, Stockport and Leeds. So when we look at the run-ins again, I've taken Merseyrail away from it because I feel that might be a bit too difficult for them to overcome. We're going to start, though, in Division 1 North with the top. 4 games left for Durham, 5 games for Newcastle. And both of them have to play Leeds. And Newcastle have 2 games to go over Bradford as well. So Durham playing this weekend, Newcastle aren't. So Durham have Stockport at home. Stockport currently in 4th. Then they've got York away, Leeds at home and Chorley away. Now, Newcastle have that game in hand. As you see, because Durham are going to go 2 games in front this weekend, Newcastle won't pull that back until the penultimate weekend of the season when they go away to Leeds. So it's going to be a long time when it's a case of, if they win this game in hand, if they do this, if they do that. It's not going to be until the final day of the season when pretty much all 70 teams, I think 68 of the 70 teams are playing on the final day of the season, that we're really going to know who needs what in order to get themselves up out of Tier 4. I think looking at it, 2 against Bradford is great for Newcastle. Barnsley away, they're in 3rd. That's going to be difficult. Hull City in 6th. Leeds in 5th. So there's, they've got games, Newcastle, there where you think, yes, they should win those games. Then there's games where they could slip up. Durham have got Stockport at home. Then they've got York, who are 9th, Leeds, who are 5th, Chorley, who are 10th. The difficult games in those 4 for Durham, Stockport and Leeds, or the more difficult games, should I say, are both at home for Durham. So they have that home advantage. Does it favour Durham or Newcastle? Well, it is in Newcastle's hands, but if they slip up, you feel that Durham are definitely going to be there to capitalise on that. Right, let's have a look at Division 1 Midlands. Lots to go through here. Plenty of games, including 3 that were last Thursday. Northampton Town 2, Peterborough United 1. Now the challengers finding it on full time. That's going to be the biggest challenge. There it is. Northampton 2, Peterborough United 1. Goals in this one to Northampton. Victoria Barrett in the 18th minute and Jade Bell in the 32nd minute. Keir Perkins got one back for Peterborough just after the hour mark, but Northampton get the 3 points. Sheffield against Lincoln City postponed. That's now being played tonight. Solihull Moors 2, Leafield Athletic 3. Emily Hornsby and Eva Rogers did the goals for Solihull. Catherine Pagan in the 24th minute, Chloe Shirley in the 81st minute for Leafield Athletic, plus either an own goal or a penalty. An own goal in the 67th minute means that Leafield take all 3 points against Solihull. Then we move into the weekend. And Doncaster Rovers 2, Wem Town 1. Shelby Morris and Sophie Brown with the goals for Doncaster. Abby Sheriff with the goal for Wem Town. Peterborough United 3-0 victors over Leafield Athletic. A brace for Tara Kirk, 47th and 81st minute. Jessica Driscoll in the 50th minute with the 3-0 win for Peterborough there. Northampton Town's second 2-1 win of the week for them. Alexandra Dix in the 44th and the 86th minute lifted them past Solihull Moors, whose only goal came from Rebecca Knight. So 6 points for Northampton Town from the week. No points for Solihull Moors. Sporting Cows are 3-0 winners over Sheffield. Sky Owen in the 18th minute, Olivia Woolston in the 64th and the 91st minute, giving Sporting Cows a 3-0 victory. And then last night, Long Eaton United 1, Stourbridge 16. Stourbridge convincing win. I was talking about this because I was at work last night and I just messaged Craig from Talking Woe, so I went, I think it's unlikely that Long Eaton will beat Stourbridge. And then at the end of the first period in the ice hockey, I went on Twitter and saw that Stourbridge was 7-0 up after half an hour and went, yeah, that's unlikely. But because that game only happened last night, my thanks to Richard Clark, who has sent me all of the goal scorers for Stourbridge last night because it isn't yet on full time. So thank you, Richard. Alex Nickling in the 10th minute. Lois Jeffries, 15th, 37, 39 and 51st. Millie Rogers in the 22nd and the 27th. Lexi Harrison in the 33rd and the 67th. Esme Moran in the 50th. Ellie McGovern in the 56th. Amber Lawrence in the 63rd and the 85th. And Neve Deasy in the 71st, the 75th and the 83rd minute. That is all 16. Yes, it is. Long Eaton did score in the 40th minute. Unfortunately, Richard doesn't know who that was, so I can't obviously give that to you. But again, thanks to Richard. And Stourbridge prepare for their cup final in emphatic fashion. Right, the table then. We have our first relegation, Long Eaton United, with just 12 points available to them now. Can only get to 15. They are relegated out of the FA Women's National League. It's something that we saw coming a while ago. They are our first relegated side this year. Stourbridge, safe to say, now have a goal difference advantage. Well, they had a goal difference advantage anyway, but safe to say they now have a significant goal difference advantage after gaining 15 last night. They've now got a goal difference of 62, and they are 7 clear of Doncaster Rovers. And Sporting Cows are in 3rd. Peterborough United, Northampton Town, both upper place. Solihull Moors, after losing both games this weekend, drop by 2 places. Everything else remains the same. It is so tight towards the bottom, though. Sheffield, Leek Town and Wem Town separated by just 2 points. Lincoln City just a point ahead of that as well. If we go to the run-ins, we're going to start then at the top. Stourbridge against Doncaster. So Stourbridge are 7 points clear, 1 game in hand. Let's look at Stourbridge's running. They've got Leek, who are 10th. Solihull, who are now 6th. Sheffield, who are 9th. Northampton, who are now 5th. Peterborough, who are 4th. And Leafield, who are 7th. So plenty of mid-table there for Stourbridge. Doncaster, Leek Town as well. Northampton as well. Leafield as well. So they've got 2 against Northampton they've got to play. They've got Peterborough as well. So the run-ins are very similar for Stourbridge and for Doncaster. You know, they've both got Northampton. They've both got Peterborough. They've both got Leek. They've both got Leafield. So 4 of the 6 are against the same teams. So in my eyes, that does favour Stourbridge because there's very little in the way of this run-in is more difficult than that run-in because they've practically got the same teams. So that's the situation at the top. At the bottom, got Sheffield, Leek and Wem. Now, Wem have only got 3 games to go, and one of those games is against Leek, and another one of those games is against Sheffield. And they've also got to face Doncaster, but it is so tight there. Now, the advantage Sheffield have, as you can see on there, they have so many. They've got 4 games in hand over Sheffield, over Wem Town, sorry. So, Sheffield, they've got 2 against Peterborough, 1 against Long Eaton. Without saying that feels like it's a win, it kind of feels like it's probably going to be a win. I do think it's going to come down between Leek and Wem. They've both got Doncaster at home. They've both got Sheffield. It's very similar again. They've both got Doncaster. They've both got Sheffield. They've got to play each other as well. So where Leek have got the advantage over Wem is a game against Peterborough and a game against Stourbridge. Are they really advantages facing first and fourth? Probably not. Could it come down to goal difference? Well, it may well do, and that is heavily in favour of Leek Town. Right, let's have a look then at the Division 1 South East results. So results from South East on Thursday, United were emphatic 6-0 winners over Chesham. So that's 4-0 at half-time for #. First minute, Malika Apinda-Gill. 7th minute, Sasha Adamson. The 20th minute, Madison Shamley-Farrand. The 37th minute, Grace Gillard. The 48th minute, Emma Samways. And the 86th minute was Grace Gillard again. It says 4-0 at half-time, which was Gill, Gillard, Farrand and Adamson. And then second half, Samways and Gillard again. Chesham against Cambridge, unfortunately postponed. Then we go to the weekend where # were 8-0 winners over Cambridge City. A hat-trick for Hayley West, 42nd, 45 plus 3 and 76. Samantha Rowland, 69 and 73. Esme Lancaster, 54. Malika Pindergill, 47. Grace Gillard in the 2nd minute opened the scoring in that one. So that's all 8 goals for #. And a draw between Queen's Park Rangers and London Seaward. Kasha Petit with 2. And also there's another goal in there somewhere for... No, only 2 have gone down on the... own goal conceded from London Seaward as well. Georgia Brasselli, Rhea Laudit and Catherine Long, the 3 goals for London Seaward. They get a draw. What it means for the table, # United go back to the top. They are 5 points clear of Wimbledon. Wimbledon have a game in hand. Everything else remains the same. It seems just pretty standard in Division 1 South East now. The title races between those top 2. That draw for London Seaward, by the way, means that they can only win the title if they win their remaining 4 games and # United don't get a point. And I don't think that's going to happen because the maximum London Seaward can get to now is 38. # already on 37. What it means for the run-ins in Division 1 South East is, of course, only between # and Wimbledon. # 4 games to go. They've got Ashford away. They're in 4th. They've got Actonians away. They're in 6th. And they've got 2 against Queen's Park Rangers, who are currently in 7th. Wimbledon have to face London Seaward tonight. That is their game in hand over #, so they desperately need a win on that. Of course, if they do get a win on that, then that's London Seaward officially out of it. If London Seaward get the victory on that, you almost feel like that might be Wimbledon out of it. They've got QPR as well, Cambridge City, Cambridge United and Norwich. So that's 10th, 8th and 5th, as well as 7th in QPR. So 10, 8, 7 and 5 for Wimbledon. # just do not look like dropping the points that Wimbledon need them to, though. So we'll see what happens over the coming few days. London Seaward away tonight is going to be the big one there in South East. Finally then, Division 1 South West results. Appreciate we've been going for half an hour already now, and we've still got all the fixtures to go through as well. Division 1 South West then, last Thursday night, Keynsham Town 2, Swindon Town 2. Goals in this one, Helena Diaz-Butcher in the 18th minute for Swindon, then a brace for Naomi Clipston for Keynsham in the 73rd and the 77th minute, made it 2-1 to Keynsham. Emerson Evans in the 86th minute got one back for Swindon, meant that it finished in a draw. Keynsham Town 1, Portishead Town 0. Vicky Vipond on the hour mark, the only goal there for Keynsham as they get 4 points from their week. Chelsea 4, Larkhall Athletic 0. Sky Bacon in the 12th minute, Nikki Lake in the 30th, Amelia Hammond in the 40th, Natasha Wilde in the 67th. The 4 goals for Chelsea. Swindon against Moneyfields was postponed, and then last night Moneyfields against Chelsea was also postponed. What it means for the table, there's not a huge amount of movement. Keynsham Town move up 2 places. Portishead and Maidenhead drop. Larkhall Athletic are 7 points away from safety now, with only 4 games to go, so they need 2 wins and 2 draws as a minimum there, and they have Bournemouth and Cardiff to play, so looks unlikely for Larkhall. AFC St Austell need 14 points from 15 available, so they need to win all 5 of their games. They have 2 against Moneyfields as well. So again, the run-ins here on South West, I focused on the top because I feel that the relegation in South West is pretty locked in. Exeter 46 points with 4 games remaining. Cardiff 40 points, 6 games remaining. What does that tell you? It tells you that if Cardiff win all of their games and Exeter win all of their games, it will come down to goal difference. The goal difference is currently to Cardiff's advantage by 4, so that would at least be by 6 when Cardiff have played the games in hand, one of which is today. One of which is this weekend, but very similar to some of the other leagues like Newcastle, for example. The teams don't pull level on games played until the final day of the season. So Exeter's running 4 games to go. Maidenhead, they're in 10th. Swindon are in 6th. Chelsea are in 7th. And Swindon again in 6th. So back-to-back against Swindon for Exeter. Cardiff have Portishead, who are in 9th this weekend. Then Chelsea, who are 7th. Moneyfields 4th. Larkhall 11th. Swindon in 6th. And Southampton women in 5th. So it does look as though it's more difficult for Cardiff. It's that away game against Moneyfields that I think may slip them up the most, but then Southampton women got a draw with them as well earlier on a few weeks ago. So very difficult to know exactly how that one's going to pan out. Cardiff, it's a strange situation where Cardiff could win all their games going in, and Exeter could win all theirs, and it comes down to goal difference, and it's decided by a single goal, or maybe even the same, and it's goals scored, and even goals scored is very close at the moment because Exeter City have scored 69, Cardiff have scored 68, so very, very close between those 2 sides. Right, that's all of the results and the tables and the run-ins as they are at the moment in the FA Women's National League. Let's go through and have a look at all of the fixtures in the next 7 days. East Midlands Derby in the Northern Premier Division this weekend. It's Derby against Forest. This one is at Pride Park. Forest cannot afford really to slip up in this game. Derby are already too far back, in my opinion. They're 9 behind Forest as it stands, 5 to go. So the maximum that Derby can get to is 47. And I feel even if they take points away from Forest, and like Burnley take points away from Forest as well, I can't see not one of Forest, Burnley and Wolves making it to 47. So I think Derby are too far back, but they'll keep fighting. They'll want nothing more than to overturn the 3-1 result that Forest handed out to them at the City Ground earlier on in the season. Liverpool Feds against Huddersfield Town, 10th against 7th. Feds will be buoyed by the result that Boulmere got against Huddersfield last week. Loughborough Lightning against West Brom, 12th against 9th. Very important weekend then down towards the bottom of the table. If results go away from Loughborough, so if they lose to West Brom and Feds get something from Huddersfield, then Loughborough will be down by the time next week's show comes around. Liverpool Feds have then got Fylde, who are in 8th on Wednesday. So 2 games this weekend for Liverpool Feds means it gives themselves a great opportunity. They could be on 21 points by the time we do next week's show, and that could put them up towards 7th and well clear of the drop zone. Southern Premier Division, just 3 games. There is also some County Cup going on this weekend as well, which is what is disrupting some of this. And when we get towards this end of the season, teams are missing weeks out so everyone can play at the end of the season. Oxford against Plymouth, that's 2nd against 10th. MK Dons against Watford is 7th against 4th. And Gillingham against Ipswich is 6th against 1st. So Oxford looking to take advantage of what could seemingly be a bit of an easier weekend for them than Ipswich have, going away to 6th place Gillingham. But Plymouth, of course, fighting. This is one of their games this is their game in hand over London and Bridgewater. So they'll be wanting to get some points from this game. We've discussed that run-in and where they can get the points earlier on in the show. Division 1 North is Barnsley against Hull City, Durham Cester against Stockport County, Merseyrail take on Bradford, and York City against Chorley. So Barnsley against Hull, that's 3rd against 6th. Bit of a nothing game, really. Durham Cester against Stockport, we've discussed the importance of that for Durham. Merseyrail against Bradford is huge down at the bottom, because a win for Merseyrail, provided, of course, that York don't win. I've got to make sure I get this right. So if Chorley beat York and Merseyrail beat Bradford, then Merseyrail survive. If Merseyrail lose to Bradford and Chorley beat York, they will still survive, but it will be 9 points back, 9 points available, and a goal difference to overturn of 27. Bradford, this is their game in hand over Chorley and over York. If they can beat Merseyrail by a couple of goals, 3 goals, and York beat Chorley, Bradford could be out at the bottom too by next week's show with 4 games to go. So it is so tight towards the bottom. Newcastle at the top, not playing this weekend. Division 1 Midlands tonight, Sheffield against Lincoln City, the game that couldn't happen last week. Leafield Athletic against Long Eaton United, 7th against 12th. Sheffield against Peterborough is 9th against 4th. Sporting Cowser against Northampton is 3rd against 5th. Leek Town against Doncaster Rovers Bells is 10th against 2nd. So plenty of action involving those teams down towards the bottom. Stourbridge not playing in the league this weekend. And obviously with Long Eaton already down, they've got nothing to play for. Leaford Athletic, they were too far away from the relegation zone, really. It's all down to those teams, Sheffield and Leek hosting Peterborough and Doncaster. Wem Town aren't playing this weekend either. Can they make a bit of a gap between themselves and Wem Town? The gap could be 3 points by the end of Sunday. Division 1 South East, we've discussed it briefly already. London Seaward against Wimbledon tonight. That is 2nd against 3rd, and full time doesn't want to load for me to view the rest of the table. Actonians against Norwich City. Ashford Town take on #United. Chesham United against Cambridge United, and Queen's Park Rangers against AFC Wimbledon. Yep, full time just for some reason does not like the Division 1 South. Oh, so now it's loaded the Division 1 South East table. So Actonians against Norwich is 6th against 5th. Ashford against #4th against 1st. Chesham against Cambridge United is 9th against 8th. And Queen's Park Rangers against Wimbledon, 7th against 2nd. So Wimbledon, game in hand over is tonight. Of course, many of those games not involving the top 2 are literally a case of finishing out the season at this point, because there is no relegation, because we lost Wyndham and Hounslow. Finally then, Division 1 South West, finally for league fixtures at least, Division 1 South West, Keynsham Town against AFC St Austell, 8th against 12th. Austell need to win this game. A draw will not do it. They have to win to stay alive for another week. Maidenhead United against Southampton Women's, 10th against 5th. Portishead Town against Cardiff City, 9th against 2nd. Swindon Town take on Moneyfields, that's 6th against 4th. And then on Wednesday, Moneyfields take on Chelsea. So again, the teams at the top, Cardiff have got one of their games in hand over Exeter. It's away at Portishead Town, but Portishead Town are down in 9th, and they're relatively certain that they're going to stay up. As I said, Lark will need to win. To catch Portishead, they need to win 3 of their remaining 4 games and hope that Portishead pick up nothing between now and the end of the season. Swindon against Moneyfields, mid-table game. Moneyfields against Chelsea, mid-table game. because Moneyfields have only 6 games to go and they're 12 points back from Exeter. It's too late to mount a title challenge for them this season. So kind of quite a few mid-table games in case of finishing out the season, but some, not necessarily in South West, but some really important games across the FAWNL regarding promotion, title chasers and relegation. One more game to talk about this weekend. It is the FAWNL Plate final between Leeds United of Division 1 North and Stourbridge of Division 1 Midlands. Leeds United, the designated home team for this tie. It is being played at Solihull Moors. So get yourself down there if you can. You can pay on the gate, pay parking when you get there. There is the Women's Euro Trophy there as well. Sue Smith is down there with the league. It should be a great day. FAWNL Plate final. I don't necessarily have a favourite, although I know Stourbridge are very friendly with me on this show, so I'm probably going to get messages at, what are we on now? The recording's on 41 minutes, so probably about 6:45 tonight. I'll probably get messages from Stourbridge. Do I think they're the favourite? I do think for Stourbridge are the favourites going into it because they're top of their respective division, and a 16-1 victory in midweek is going to give them an awful lot of confidence. But neutral show, of course, that this is. Best of luck to both sides taking part in the Plate final on Sunday. It should be a great day. That'll do it for this week's Women's Football Chat. Of course, as the fixtures start to wind down, these shows can get a bit quicker. That's why I'm starting to look at the run-ins. But the run-ins are, particularly when you're trying to look at who's got an easier or harder run-in, it's like, well, you've got 4 or 5 teams and they're just playing the same. No, you've got 2 teams vying for a title. And, okay, who's got the easier running? Well, they've got 6 games to play each and 4 of them are against the same team. It's difficult to say. But we'll keep, ticking that down and seeing as the results come in, if anything changes for those sides who are contesting promotion or fighting against relegation. I sense we might have a couple more R's against team names when we do next week's show, 6 p.m. on Thursday for your weekly roundup of all things to do with the 3rd and 4th tiers of women's football here in England. It's the FA Women's National League. Only 6 weeks to go of the season now. It's beginning to hot up. As always, keep supporting your local women's football team, and goodbye.